Who is Star Wars Theory, and why is he getting so much hate? Welcome to the channel. So today we're going to be covering Star Wars Theory, and one of the videos that he had posted up a few days ago at the time of the recording of this particular video. He's one of the larger Star Wars YouTube channels out there, and that's just for the normies that have no idea who Star Wars Theories is. He covers everything from story beats to Star Wars news, and he's even done a fan film or two. But everybody's got all this hate for him right now, all because of one video. And this is directly from his Twitter feed, and I will go ahead and read over this real quick. I asked psychologist and relation expert Sadea Khan what she thought of this whole Star Wars situation with Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, saying it's time for a woman to shape Star Wars. I also asked her thoughts on the blatant outcry from soy boys who think it's perfectly acceptable and demean the majority of us who think it's ridiculous. So let's kind of take a look at this video real quick and just kind of see what all the hubbub is about.
I see. Okay. And the final question I have, and it's going to be a Star Wars question. So.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure for this interview, I don't know the entire context of it, but I'm pretty sure that this was for another channel of his, and Star Wars was not the major conversation.
I've never seen Star Wars in my life.
No, it relates to what we're so once Disney took over Star Wars, they started to change the whole infrastructure around and really, kind of dog the men and focus on the women a lot, in the sense where there wasn't much training and this and that. There's a new director for one of the Star Wars movies, and she says it's about time that a woman come in and shape the Star Wars movies and galaxy. And it's causing a huge uproar on the internet. So many people are saying this is ridiculous. We've had women in Star Wars galaxy before, and
which is completely true, because the way the things are going right now, they're dismissing all the previous women that have any involvement with Star Wars, including Kathleen Kennedy, Carrie Fisher, who did more than just play Princess Leia. She's also touched up a script or two for Lucas, and I believe her name is Marsha Lucas, who helped edit the first film and kind of guide George Lucas into the direction of where to take Star Wars to make it a decent film to a much better film. Oops, went back there a bit.
In the sense where there wasn't much training and this and that. There's a new director for one of the Star Wars movies, and she says it's about time that a woman come in and shape the Star Wars movies and galaxy. And it's causing a huge uproar on the internet. So many people are saying this is ridiculous. We've had women in Star Wars galaxy before. And other people are saying, well, people's egos that are having a problem with this are very fragile, and their masculinity is fragile. What's your overall consensus when a female director wants to come in and reshape something and say, it's plant that flag that, hey, I'm a woman, and hear me roar, here is my way of making this sort of franchise, which is already established, now something that's feminine dominant or female dominant, whatever it might be, instead of just a good story.
Yeah, I think what happens particularly in Western cultures where women have it so easy, but they pretend they know. What happens with women who generally have it quite easy, they enjoy victimhood, because that's the only way that they can feel part of other people's struggle. What makes human beings feel alive is when they're a bit struggling, when they're going through something, where they've gone through a bit of trauma, they've gone through something, it makes them feel alive. What's happened with women in the Western world particularly is because there is no real oppression, but they want to be a victim so bad, because victimhood is just a way of kind of shortcutting sympathy. Everyone it's just shortcut entitlement. You get what you want without having to earn it because you just happen to be a victim. So what happens is they want to start finding places where they can be a victim and then transform it so that they can become a hero. So what they'll do is say, oh, we need more women in this particular sport. Nobody watches them. Nobody wants women in there, but they'll just stamp their authority so they can be a local hero. Then we need more women in Star Wars. No, we don't. Women don't even watch Star Wars.
Which is a valid point, but there are a lot of women who do watch Star Wars. I know for a fact there's a lot of women that I know that watches Star Wars. That's the exception to the rule. But on the overall, Star Wars is a boys brand. And what Disney is trying to do is trying to, instead of encompassing all the facets with Star Wars and Marvel being the boys brand and Disney princesses and anything else Disney being the girls brand, they're trying to convert the boys brand to becoming girls brand. The problem with that is your customer base is going to move away from the actual product itself. So you end up losing money instead of supporting that customer base and nurturing it and then letting it grow with great care, great storylines, respect for pretty much the lore of the series.
They don't even care about it. It's a man's little thing. Let them have it. But
exactly.
they want to be like, oh, there's such a deprivation. We got to be in it so they can be a mini hero. When you don't have anything outside of your gender as a way of being proud of yourself, you use your gender as a shortcut for entitlement and heroic stances.
So essentially, do the hard work. The problem is with a lot of these people, especially in Hollywood, they're not looking down the road. They're looking at, what can I do now to be successful, instead of putting in the hard work and plotting the time it needs to take to get from point A to point B. They want point A and point B to be merged together. So doing everything in the short run instead of putting in the time, putting in the effort, taking the long, difficult road to be successful at the end. Create original characters, nurture them, give them the care. If they want people to adopt these new characters they're creating, let them go through a struggle. Let them start from a difficult beginning. Let them work hard and train or go through whatever hardships they need to, and then become powerful at the end.
So I would just say, unfortunately, it is the norm in Western cultures to kind of over-identify with your gender and then over-identify with victimhood.
And the problem is the normal people are getting sick of this. They're seeing what Hollywood is doing with all this SJW crap, all this pandering. And they're starting to see it now, and they're starting to vote with their wallets. And Hollywood's starting to see that now, but Hollywood is so far up their own butt, they won't, make it an about face and kind of fix the problem. They know it's a problem. They just are too egotistical to fix it.
It's a way of getting a shortcut to being a hero. And as a result, it's just there to design. And also what it does is keeps the power in the hands of the women. And whenever you redirect power entirely to women, just like if it was entirely to men, it creates an unhealthy society. If the power is totally in men's hands, it would be unhealthy. If it's totally in women's hands, it's also unhealthy.
Which is true. You just got to keep an equal balance to everything. Everybody works well together, not one side versus the other. You can't shift power to one side and it be fair for the other side. It's got to be totally balanced. Everybody has to do everything equally.
But what we're doing is, I remember in an environment, I did a talk and it was a mainly Gen Z, a very young generation. I couldn't believe how feminine the men were. Everybody looked androgynous. I couldn't believe. And I just, you would just take the normal 18-year-old boy, would have been considered as a really feminine man years and years ago. They would have seen him as like super, super feminine, or they would have just assumed he's a homosexual. In this day and age, that's just how the men are come. So they've lost the masculinity. Yeah. And so what's happening is the culture is creating the very men women will not desire in the future.
And she makes a pretty good point about that. But the thing about that particular point there, she probably does a lot of talks in some of these bigger cities. It's not like that everywhere. There's a whole big country out there. And especially from my area, I see a lot of jock types, sports types when it comes to these younger people. And I don't see a whole lot of people that fitting the description that she's talking about. So in that aspect, you have to think about the areas where they're doing these talks. So it's everything by area. So I would assume major cities probably like that for sure. Now, through her point and everything, she was talking about Western women, but this also has to go with the director And doing a little research, she's from Pakistan. That's not a Western country. But if you go to Sharmeen Abaid Chenoy's Wikipedia page, she moved to the United States for higher education. So, of course, a lot of her ideas she got from the United States when she went to school. So, of course, that's where she would get all that liberal thinking and progressive thinking from there. Now, as I said before, when she applied that to her documentarian skills and making documentaries, it makes a lot of sense, because she is going for a message in that. In documentaries, you're supposed to have a message like that, because that's the whole point of documentaries. But when it comes to a narrative-based, script-written sci-fi, you do the story. You don't want to put any politics in that. People want to go see a movie and forget about the world around them. And you're taking that away from by putting it in Star Wars, by putting it in Marvel, by putting it in Star Trek. And don't get me started on Doctor Who, because Doctor Who is pretty much a mess. But that'll be something to be talked about at a different time. What did you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Put it in the comments below. And, I appreciate anybody that's come in to at least give me a little bit of a chance to make a video like this. And until next time, we'll see you on the flip. Bye for now.